All right, so we're now recording. So by participating in this program, you are agreeing to being recorded for the sessions. Second, I have now muted all of you so that we can minimize any background noise that may be distracting to the panel and the audience. Mike is going to take questions at the end of his presentation. If you have questions as the program progresses, please post them to the chat window and we will present them to Mike at the end. If you already found it, you might want to look for that chat window button on your screen and you'll be able to see where you can type in your questions and messages to us. The session handouts will be posted to the USDA website within the next few days, along with the text of Mike's presentation to the 2008 Prairie Conclave. A copy of the recording of the session will be posted about a month following today's presentation. And now that we've completed our housekeeping duties, I would like to ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I do know that we have some Canadians with us, and I understand we have somebody from England. We respect that you're not going to pledge the US flag, but it's something that's very traditional with United Square Dancers of America, and we like to start all of our programs by doing that. So if you can, stand and join me. If not, just be in your place. And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I thank you all for doing that with us. All right, when we scheduled today's webinar, we never dreamed that the COVID-19 pandemic would be having as long a term of impact on us as it has. When I spoke with Mike last month, he commented that today's presentation will be a whole lot easier if we were closer to reopening square dance floors on a national basis. Unfortunately, we are still a few months out in several parts of the country, but if anyone can help us along the path to promoting the reopening of square dancing, it's today's guest speaker. Mike Hogan has been a square dance caller and instructor for 45 years, as well as having a 30-year career in the marketing industry. He is the author of the Caller Lab Square Dance Marketing Manual, published in March of 2018, and was set to be the keynote speaker at last year's National Square Dance Convention in Spokane, Washington, before it was canceled. He is currently the market president of iHeartMedia. I know he plans to tell you more about himself during the presentation, so it is my extreme pleasure to turn the program over to Mr. Mike Hogan. And give me just a second, Mike, I've got to unmute you. I thought I had you at the top of my screen. There you are. Try to unmute yourself, Mike.
I just did.
There you go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Hogan.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on what part of the country or the world that you live in. I do very much want to thank you for joining this morning, this afternoon. I'm not sure which way to say it. It's afternoon here. And I appreciate Bonnie thinking of me when she was setting up involved in setting this up. So I have a fairly lengthy presentation that I'm going to try to get through pretty quickly. Most of you who have seen things that I put on, I blabber too much. So Eric or Jerry or somebody out there, you can look at me and go, and I'll get it, move on, right? So let me try to share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So Bonnie, can you allow me to share my screen?
Oh yeah, well. Well, shoot. Sally? I can share. thought you were set up to do that, Mike.
I guess I thought I was too. Hang on, let's see if it's changed any.
Try it now, Mike.
Aha.
All right. There we go.
That's not what I wanted, but that's okay.
Oh,
No, it's all right. I'm
okay.
finding that I can share, so that's good. If I get out of that. Okay, let me go back to share and see if I can find what I'm looking for.
Best laid plans of all volunteers, folks.
I found it.
There you go.
All right, and let me. All right, somebody tell me if you can see the presentation, the first page.
I can see it. Yes, Mike.
All right, great, great. So hang on just a second. Can you all, hopefully you all can't hear all the noise in the background, but there's stuff going on upstairs and they just got loud. So if it gets loud, I'll shut them down. All right, so thank you for inviting me. As Bonnie said, I'm a square dance caller. I've called for 45 years. I'm very active with Caller Lab. I travel extensively. The main point that I did want to point out is that I've called for the same local club here in Omaha for 42 years. So I not only know the road and traveling and festivals and those kinds of things. I know recording. I know groups, and I know about running a local club. And I think that's pretty relevant. The other part that a lot of people don't know about me is my career side. I've been in the marketing industry for 30 years. I've done a lot of different things. And just for clarity, I'm actually, the way the company that I work for, which is iHeartMedia, is set up is we have, of course, businesses in lots of cities all across the country. And I run the Sioux City, Iowa market, which is 5 radio stations. Hang on a second. Scott. Sorry. I don't know if that was distracting you, but it was distracting me. So we'll move on. Okay. So this is about, I mean, you guys have asked me to present promoting square dancing during the most challenging of times. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit, because promoting by itself is just a little piece of our overall puzzle that every business is trying to solve. I don't know how many of you run your own businesses, but if you run your own business, there's a whole lot more than just, am I going to run some radio ads to try and stimulate business? So look, we've got trouble with our activity. We've seen it coming. It's progressed over time. The numbers have been getting smaller over time. All of that's been going on, and now we also have the impact of what COVID could or might not do to our activity. So I wanted to start out with a couple easy quotes. Problem well stated is half solved. So understanding our situation is really paramount, and I don't think that we have followed this enough to understand where we're at. So I want to talk about leadership. So in the real business world, I'll pick on Eric Hennerlaw. Eric Hennerlaw works for, I'm going to make some of this up, Eric, so if I'm wrong, don't worry about it. Eric owns his own insurance company. He's our insurance agency. And so his job with that agency is to take the products that he represents and promote those. And he can make decisions about how he wants to do it. He gets to decide if he wants to work out of his home. He gets to decide if he wants a great big office space with multiple floors and conference rooms. He gets to decide all of that stuff. I mean, basically, when it comes to running his business, he is the decision maker. In the square dance world, we don't have it quite like that. And that can be good and that can be bad. When I look at it and I think about who has the vision for the future of our activity and who is making the important decisions, who recognizes, looks at our business and recognizes challenges, and then who has the authority to act and solve those challenges. For the most part, none of us do, because square dancing is essentially run by a bunch of volunteers. So there's no president of square dancing and so forth. So for today, at least, I want you to think about your business, and I want you to consider yourself as being Mr. or Mrs. or Miss President of square dancing, as in this is not just your hobby. This is your business. And today, because it's your business, it has to succeed, because if it doesn't succeed, you won't have any money to pay your mortgage or your light bill or buy your groceries. We get very busy running this business because it's a hobby that we love, and we love it. But we've got to step back and take a look at it as a business owner and make smart decisions about our business. So I'm going to try and help you down that path. Okay. So first, how is business? I just, most of the stuff that I have here, Bonnie referenced a speech that I gave in 2008, 13 years ago. And I'm sure a lot of you went, well, how's that relevant? Well, because it hasn't changed much. And I did provide her with a copy of the speech that I gave, if you want it. But most of the stuff that I'm talking about came from that speech 13 years ago, with some changes, but not a lot. So here we go. How's business? Demand is down, crowds are smaller. Customer base is unable to dance as often as in the past. Remember that you, the dancers, are the customer base. Declining dancer population due to health reasons and age. Dance venues are expensive. Callers and cuers are expensive. We have a declining caller and cuer population. Dancers don't want to hold office, can't get anyone to take lessons, can't get a large enough crowd to pay our bills. So basically, there aren't enough of you, the current dancer. We all know those problems exist. And now we have a new problem, the COVID-19 coronavirus. So here's what you need to know. We know it shut our business down. It just did. Square dancing is set up in one of the most socially connected, but shake hands, hug, touch people, move, breathe on people kind of environments. That's a challenge. Add to that the idea that the average age of our dancer is older, so we have a higher degree of risk. So that's just what it's done. It shut us down. And what we don't know is when we're going to reopen. And we don't know, and I think this was important, we don't know how many of our customers are going to return. And we don't know how many of our caller and curers are going to be available to hire. So I don't have the answer, but my speculation is that we are going to lose, I would guess we're going to lose a quarter to half of our current dancer population, and probably similar for our current caller and cure groups, callers, entertainers. I suspect that that's going to be a big problem for us. So let's talk about marketing versus promotion, because really that's kind of where I want to go with this. So promotions are the set of activities that communicate the product, brand, or service to the user. So the goal of a promotion, and we all know this, we want to increase awareness, we want to create interest, we want to generate sales, and we want to create brand loyalty. And I said we all know that, but most of the time when I talk to dancers about promoting square dancing, they want to know, if I run a Facebook ad, will people show up at my class? If I do this, that the result is going to be what I want it to be. Most of what I'm going to be talking about is more about, not about that specific tactic, but the theory that goes into square dancing and how you run your business that we haven't done a great job, frankly, of being in control of. So promotion is just one of the elements of a marketing plan. And the promotion part is to increase awareness, create interest, generate sales. Here's the four pieces of it. It's the product, it's the price that we charge for it, place, which is how we distribute it, and then promotion, which is kind of where this, the ask for this in meeting started with. So if we have something to sell that nobody wants, it's not going to sell. If we have something to sell that's really expensive and everybody else is selling it for half the price, we're going to lose out. If we have something to sell, but we have no way to get it in the hands of people, then we're going to lose out. And if we don't have those pieces figured out, promoting it like crazy doesn't really do us a lot of good. So I want to talk about why someone buys a product or service. If we weren't all on mute and I could take a straw poll, I'd ask you the pop quiz. And the pop quiz is, why do people buy a product? And they buy a product or service for exactly one of two reasons. They either want it or they need it. That's it. Or some combination of the two. For example, if we only needed a car to get from point A to point B, and we cared nothing else about the car, but we got to have a car to get from A to B, we would probably buy the cheapest car that we could possibly get, because innate human nature says we don't want to spend more money than we have to. But Jim Matchko has a really nice, it's not a Ford, it's a, anyway, Jim, you know what you've got. I rode around in it in San Diego last November. It's a beautiful car, very comfortable. It gets him from A to B, but he wants some of the other things that go with it as well. Or it's a need. Like, remember the rush? Sorry to bring this up, but remember the rush for toilet paper? It wasn't because people were collecting. There were collectors and wanted to get all the different kinds. It's a need. People buy things. So I know you're on mute and hopefully you're laughing at that one. Okay. So I want to talk about the marketing funnel. This, you can call it a marketing funnel, you can call it a sales funnel. This funnel is the same whether it's square dancing or running your own business, any kind of business. This is the process that we take somebody through. And sometimes we call it the sales funnel instead of the marketing funnel. But basically, the challenge is we got to take someone who knows absolutely nothing about what it is that we want them to buy or do. And we got to start out by growing an awareness of them about what the product or service is. If they don't understand the product or the service that we want them to participate in, there's no way they're going to. And the basics are, they haven't connected the service or the product with a need or a want that they have. It sounds complicated. It's really that simple. You got to say the right thing so that people understand that what it is that you have to offer and why they should purchase it. And the why is because it satisfies a want or a need. But it takes a lot of work in the awareness stage of this cycle, where we talk to people and talk to people and talk to people until they finally, the light goes on and they go, I get it. Now I know why I should go down to, this business and buy that product. In that process, they go from awareness to consideration, meaning, okay, now the light's starting to come on. I'm kind of understanding that there's something I need and it's connecting. And then they evaluate. And it used to be evaluation. Like if you were going to buy a car, your evaluation was, I'm going to go down to the dealership and drive the car and take a look at it and make a decision. Today, we search everything on the internet. So we're going to go find websites that tell us much more. It's less confrontational. It's less pushy. It's a great place to find out information. Or we might, in the car stage, we might go test drive the car. And when we're done test driving the car, in that evaluation, we've decided we're going to go ahead and purchase it. And then if we purchase it and it does what we expected it to do, we fall in love with it. It's why I've driven Buicks for many years. I got my first Buick when I was, I think, 22 years old, and everybody said, it's a grandpa car. Well, I love them. And so I've just driven them for that long. And that creates loyalty, and loyalty eventually becomes advocacy. And advocacy, if you think about it, is you all love square dancing so much that you're going to go out and tell your friends all about it. That's advocacy. And that's the process that we got to take a consumer through with any kind of business. So unfortunately, what we do, and what in the marketing promotion world, most dancers and most clubs, they get it backwards. They start out with, well, let's put out a flyer, let's create a flyer, and let's go hang it at Hy-Vee or Kroger or whatever your local grocery store is. Put it on their community bulletin board, and people will come take our lessons. Or let's put a parade or put a float in the parade, and we just know as soon as people see that float, they're going to flock to our lessons. Even inviting a friend to come to lessons who doesn't know anything about the activity is probably less likely to do it. So the way that most of the dancers have done it over the years is they've started out just by the recruiting. Come take class, come take class. That's down here in the purchase funnel. That's, I want you to make a purchase, and they haven't understood what it is that we're offering. And this is especially true when you go to dancer or people who do not square dance, who are not close friends of a square dancer. If you're close friends of a square dancer, your square dance friend has probably told you all about it, maybe ad nauseum, and maybe you want it, maybe you don't. But most people don't understand that square dancing exists in their communities. They don't know where dancing exists. They either, they think different things. So what I want to talk about in the promoting site is really the promotion part. And promotion affects the top part of the sales funnel, awareness and consideration. So public exhibitions, when we do public exhibitions, we don't get people to come and take our class from that, but we have had at least the opportunity to tell people square dancing does exist, and look, it looks something like this. And if you do that the right way, with a smile on your face and the right kind of music, at least their mind they've been exposed to the fact that it exists, and they're able to create some kind of an image in their mind about the activity. Now, you got to hit them in a lot of different places, but beginner parties, public exhibitions, those kinds of things are a good place for people to get the opportunity to see it. I will say beginner parties also falls down into the evaluation stage. People get to actually sample it. But articles about square dancing, just telling your friends, those kinds of things. I'll go into some of the things that we can do to promote versus recruit here in just a bit. So my point here is that it needs to look like this. We need to do the promote part, and educating people about the activity and what's so great about it and why they ought to participate, in terms of answering either a want or a need that they have. And if you can do that, then your recruitment efforts will work better. So you got to get promote before you get recruit. I'm sure there'll be questions. We'll come back to that. All right. So in pre-COVID times, we offered square dance lessons, right? And we didn't get a bunch of people to flock to our lessons when they were offered. The example of the parade and the float in the parade. I know many clubs have done that, and the club members' expectation was, we're going to put a float in a parade, and we're going to have lessons start 2 months later, and a bunch of people are going to show up. And then a bunch of people didn't show up, and they thought it was too much work and wasn't worth the time. When actually what they didn't understand is they weren't recruiting, they were promoting. They gave those people at that class or at that parade the opportunity to experience square dancing, to see it. So why don't people show up at our lessons when we offer them? Lack of awareness is a big one. You've all heard that it's the best kept secret. It is. We have research that shows that most people don't know that it exists in their communities. Poor image. I did that in grade school. Lack of fit. This is becoming more of a problem. And I hate to say it, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Square dancing, they think square dancing is for old folks. And if you looked at the screen and you looked at the faces on the screen of the 100 people that signed on to watch this, I'm 58 and I'm might not be the youngest, but I'm definitely one of the youngest that's on this call. So while we don't ever think, oh, it's just for old folks, because we don't think it's just for seniors, and I'm not sure, I'm getting there, so I'm not sure what word to use without offending anybody. But the fact is that we are an older generation, and some younger groups to enjoy square dancing won't feel like they fit with our age group. So, but ultimately, the real reason that they didn't show up at our classes is back to the top of the sales funnel. They haven't associated square dancing as a product that satisfies a need or a want that they have. It's really that simple. If I need something and this satisfies it, I'm going to consider it. Once I consider it, I'm going to make a purchase. And we just haven't accomplished that, and we haven't for years. So the solution is to promote the product now and recruit the dancers later. And actually that makes sense right now. With COVID going on, without the ability to actually open up classes, this is a good chance for us to actually talk about why square dancing is so good without having to worry about, oh my gosh, I've got a class that starts in 1 month. I got to get people in it. We have to promote and then recruit. Okay. I got this from Bob Riggs. I'm not sure if he made it on the call or not, but I wanted to give him credit. So, and I've seen studies like this, and he reminded me to go back and look into it. So I want to show you what a healthy business customer base looks like. And I'm going to use a couple of examples, but basically a business has a large base of customers that don't buy from them frequently. A plumber has a large base of people that call them out once in a while, that kind of thing. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. A frequent customer is that middle part of their business space. So they got a lot of people that are infrequent. They got a few people that are a small number that are very frequent. And occasionally they have a group of super users that never, I mean, they're just there all the time. So here's my two examples. Olive Garden. I imagine most of you have an Olive Garden or have heard of Olive Garden. It's a national chain sit-down restaurant known for its breadsticks. So they have a large base of infrequent customers. This twice-a-year customer is me. I like Olive Garden, okay? I travel a lot. It's in a lot of places. I probably take my wife and go to Olive Garden with some friends a couple times a year. But they thrive on lots of people like me doing that. And then there's my daughter and son-in-law who love Olive Garden. And they are likely about a once a month customer. At least they were. Right now they're stationed in Germany, so they can't. But before they transferred to Germany, they were there all the time. And they have a few customers, a small number, that are there all the time, probably go once a week. You think about your favorite restaurant, you're probably falling into the I go there once a month, once every couple of months. You have others that you go once in a great while, etc. That's your basic customer base. So let's show that in the form of hobby as opposed to retail. And we're going to use soccer. And this is what I got actually from Bob Riggs. So in the soccer world, 30 years ago, outside the United States, soccer was huge, but in the United States, very, very small. And so what happened is international soccer worked its way into the United States and established a lot of young base soccer clubs, kids 4, 5, 6 years old playing soccer. And they managed to do that recreational soccer stuff all over the country, which generated itself into competitive soccer. So 30 years ago, high schools didn't have soccer teams. Now every high school has soccer teams. Every college has soccer teams. So there's leagues, there's competitive players, and now we have professional soccer. Several cities have a professional soccer league, and that's how they built it. But that's the base. So now let me show you what square dancing looks like. Here's our base. It's made up of infrequent customers, very infrequent customers. They dance, maybe community dance program. They attend a beginner's event, maybe basic program, some mainstream dancers that maybe go once every 2 or 3 months, that kind of thing. That's our infrequent customer base. It's not about how often they participate. It's about how many of them there are. And there are very few. Then you have kind of that next level, which is somewhat frequent customers, a lot of mainstream dancers, some plus dancers. This is if you have a club at home and you have a dancer that comes, maybe you offer 2 dances a month, and that dancer shows up every other dance, or once a month or once every couple of months, or even if they go twice a month only to your home dances. This is that somewhat frequent dancer. And then you have the next level, which is a very frequent dancer, some mainstream, some plus, and most plus dancers. These are people that go to your home club every single week or every other week whenever you have your classes, and they go dance other places as well. So they're dancing quite a bit. And then you have the super user, which is potentially, could be plus, it could be advanced and challenge, but it's that group that when you could go dancing 6 nights a week, you went dancing 6 nights a week. The problem isn't the top level of our customer base. It's that this bottom base that we need to have available to support everything else that we do is very, very small. And that's a problem. And of course, if you look at it that way, I guess your business could like tip over, which it's on the verge of doing. So, all right. So here's some more. In pre-COVID times, when we held square dance lessons, typically, and this is I don't have research that backs this up, but I think you'll find this to be pretty accurate. Before COVID, anyway, we'd hold lessons, and about half of our listeners wouldn't finish class. And then when we finished class, and we had the people that graduate, that about half of those or more didn't stay longer than 2 years. So that's not really a recruitment problem, that's a retention problem. And the reason is this: we have a product problem. So these beginners, they came for what they came for, and what they got weren't the same thing. What did they expect? My guess is, and I think you guys probably would agree with this, they expected to take a few lessons and be able to dance. They expected to be entertained, to be welcomed, and to have fun. That's kind of and be entertained, be welcomed, have fun. Those are the kind of things that we tell people about when we want them to take class. We might tell them that you can get good exercise, and there may be a few that took it for good exercise. But my guess is that if all they wanted was good exercise, they join a fitness club. So they must have wanted some social interaction, some entertainment, that kind of stuff. That's the product that they came for. So here's what they get, and I'm using the product being lessons, the process that we take them from being a non-dancer to a dancer that can join your club. So here's the scenario: mainstream club. Beginners must sign up for 20 weeks of lessons offered only once a year on Thursday nights from 7 to 9 p.m., pay for it all up front, and successfully complete those lessons, learning 67 calls from a multitude of positions and applications before being allowed to attend a local club dance. And they're usually encouraged to take the next set of lessons before they finish the first. And then once completing the lessons, they're asked to go dance at an unfamiliar location to a different caller who calls faster than they are used to, usually with more complicated choreography than they're used to, with mostly strangers who are not tolerant of their slowness or lack of efficiency at executing the calls, where they can only dance And then when they get there, they can only dance 10 of the 26 pieces of music that are actually played, because there's 10 mainstream pieces of music, 4 plus because we roll 2 plus tips in, and there's 6 sets of rounds during the break. So that dancer, after all of that, was able to get there and dance 10 of the 26 pieces of music, but we asked them to pay the same thing that everybody else pays. Now, I know some areas don't charge everything up front. I know there are some variations to that, and I'm just looking at it going, okay, this works for us. But when I take this, when I back this out and I say, okay, I'm a beginner, I want to go learn to dance. I got to take 20 weeks of class, and I've got to learn this call and that call, and I just want to dance. And then if you take it to the plus program, it's kind of the same, except now we want them to take lessons for a full year before they can get out and dance. And they have to learn 95 calls. And we want them to be able to learn those from a multitude of positions and applications before what us callers call phasers, before being allowed to attend a local club dance. And then when they're done, they can only dance 7, if there's 7 tips and rounds between tips, they dance 14 of the 26 pieces of music. So getting them through the class is harder. Transitioning to the club is hard. It's just the transition from lessons to club is super intimidating for new dancers. And unless we address some of those things and fix them, we're going to continue to have problems. Now, here's some history for you. And I can speak to this because I have been calling for 45 years. I started in 1976. So when I started, and prior to when I started, kind of in the boom, clubs were 12 to 25 squares, festivals were large, national conventions, 20 to 35,000 dancers. And I remember when I got out of lessons in 1976 in Omaha, Nebraska, about half of the clubs that were here were still teaching the 50 basics, and we were teaching those in 12 nights. They averages 4.61 calls per night. And there's a reason I point out the average, because today, the last decade, maybe the last 2 decades, club dances are now considerably smaller. Festivals are considerably smaller. National convention attendance, 4,000 people instead of 20,000 people. We're still teaching our beginners 67 to 95 calls in 20 to as many as 50 weeks that we're asking them to be in class. Well, the reason that it came to 3.35 or 1.9 calls per night is because of the increase in complicated choreography. We've increased our expectations of those beginners to the point where we have to have them in class longer. As an example, we all know the call swing through, one of the basics. But if we're going to use swing through, we need the dancer to understand swing through from a right-handed ocean wave, from a left-handed ocean wave, from the boys spot, from the girls spot. Oh no, you can't call it boys and girls, ins and centers. And we got to understand it from different formations, like a regular right-handed wave or a mini wave or a tidal wave. And they need to be able to understand the application. So if we're in a left-handed ocean wave and I say swing through, the centers trade by the right, and then everybody trades by the left. Or golly, let's expect that we're in a great big long tidal wave that and the caller calls left swing through. So we have to figure out that we're going to split our tidal wave into 2. Get it? That's where we've moved our beginners from easy, let's just do this, to the point of expectation that has caused us to need to keep them in class considerably longer. It's a hard product for them to stay with. So what we experience is high dropout rate and low retention rate. And what's happened here is your new customer came, they tried it, they left, and now you found more new customers who will come and try it and leave. So I know this is not the Facebook thing to do to invite them to lessons. I'm appealing to you to think about what we're inviting them to come to try and make it more appealing for them when they get there. Because if we get them there, if we could have kept every dancer that we got to start a class in the last 10 years, COVID would be a slowdown, but beyond that, we wouldn't lose very many dancers and our halls would be full. But we're not able to keep them. So I want to show you, this is my opinion of how this happened. And it's not to point fingers, because when you point your finger, your thumb's pointed at you. And I will point out where I'm at in some of this. So here's what happened. To start with, I think when we set up the initial basic mainstream lists, and certainly today, I don't think we put enough space between basic and mainstream. There are 19 calls on the mainstream list, 48 calls on the basic list. So to get from basic to mainstream is a short venture. And so lessons went from 12 to 20 nights because it's only 19 more calls, no big deal. We'll just increase the length of class. And then when I say tenured, I'm talking about dancers that have danced for a while. So tenured dancers, they wanted more. They were having fun with it. And they said, okay, give us more. Tenured dancers were also excuse me, making the decisions based on what they wanted. Excuse me. So the people that are running our clubs, setting up our classes, wanted more. And by the way, while that was happening, they were getting older, right? So what happened there is beginners found it harder to learn and a longer time before getting what they came for because they needed to be in class a bit longer because it's 20 weeks. Now, callers introduced more calls to entertain the tenured dancers and they loved it. Remember when we did a lot of experimentals, all of that kind of stuff came out. It was fun, a new call, and callers who frankly weren't very good at specific choreographic presentation and calling skills found a beginning call or a new call, something neat and cool that they could put into their program and use that to entertain the dancers. And the experienced dancers loved it. And they should, I get that. But so we introduced more calls. Then those same tenured dancers who oversaw running our clubs and hiring our callers. So we're kind of getting into a cycle here. Callers introduced more complicated choreography to entertain experienced dancers, and they loved it. So now these experienced dancers, tenured dancers, who are booking our callers and setting up our dances, they want more. And the journey now for a brand new dancer became 20 weeks of class with a higher expectation of call knowledge and execution when they got out. And I think we've overcome this, but there was a while when we would graduate beginners and their acceptance on the dance floor wasn't very strong because the experienced dancers, they wanted harder, faster, and they didn't realize that you get it. I'm not accusing anybody on this of being guilty of that. I just know it happened. And I know to this day it happens a little bit. And we try to head that off. So, but now this dancer is taking 25 weeks of class just so they can learn to keep up, and they're having trouble keeping up. Beginners found it harder to learn and even longer. Tenured dancers wanted more. So the tenured dancers who oversaw clubs and hiring callers decided that we're going to add 28 calls and start dancing plus. Okay, well, plus all of a sudden became the big thing. And this is where I'm going to raise my hand and tell you I'm guilty. I did this. Callers saw a new revenue stream. We had the opportunity to teach mainstream dancers to dance plus. We had the opportunity to start a new plus club. I did that. I did that for several years. I started a new plus club, and there's nothing wrong with the new plus club at all. There's nothing wrong with teaching experienced dancers how to dance plus if they want to dance the next program. Excuse me. However, my Plus Club was on a Friday night, and it went up against several other clubs that were mainstream clubs in the Omaha market. And I know that my Plus Club prematurely put some of those mainstream clubs out of business. So, you know, when I'm pointing fingers, I'm pointing fingers at me too. This is just the cycle that we got into. Mainstream was eliminated by many areas around the country, and the journey became tougher. And now it's a full year for this beginning dancer to come in and learn before they can ever go out and dance. So most of our customer base is now older, longtime dancers who dance plus or more, who still make the decisions based on what they want, including running our clubs and hiring callers. So nobody did it by design. We just did what we did. We wanted more. We booked the callers gave us more. The callers saw revenue opportunities, so they took advantage of that. The dancers wanted more, and pretty soon over time we lost track of what it takes for somebody who doesn't square dance to fall in love with our activity fast. And that is getting to on the floor, getting to dance, having fun. So we've let our high frequency customer make all the decisions in running our company based solely on what they want instead of what's good for the business. And then our customer base eroded. Some of that print may be a little bit small on some of your screens. This is being recorded and you will have the opportunity to have this deck afterwards. I want to talk about money. It's kind of the same cycle real quick. These same high frequency customers that are making the decisions, they want what they want. And it's human nature that we want to pay less and not more. So think about it. I know I use this example a lot. I'm a Buick guy. If I ran the local business Buick dealership, because I'm the customer and I get to make the decisions, I would have come in and told them, I'm going to give you $10,000 for my car, which is a $40,000 car. And I could do so because I run the business. So we don't have a marketing fund. Why not? Because the customers who run our business didn't plan for one. We don't have a marketing fund because the customers who run our business don't want to pay for one. So think about this as the USDA. You're the largest dancer representation organization in the country. Your club members, the members of your organization, are the members of the clubs that are running the clubs. Human nature says, I don't want to spend any more than I have to. I get that. But what we're running into now is we don't have a marketing fund. We don't want to pay for a marketing fund. We don't want to pay more at the door. I know you guys have had the experience of debating with your club members if we should increase the rate at the door by $1 or $2 and how fussy that gets. So because the experienced dancer isn't just there for the environment. They want to dance. They're just there about dance. And all of a sudden it doesn't matter to them where they dance. So because it doesn't, they'd rather dance in a church basement and pay less for the venue. Now we're at a point where our customers who run the business are older. And since they'd rather pay less, they've decided to take care of their age and dance at a senior center. I get it. But if you want to attract somebody under 55, they're never going to dance at a senior center. They just aren't. And I have a story I can share, but I'm running long. All right. Then I wanted to also point out that a lot of people like to point fingers at callers and say callers are expensive. I call a lot. In 2019, I called 100 events and I had a net loss of $2,500. So every time you paid $6 to dance to me, I paid $25 to call for you. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying we're not charging enough. And so here's the thing. If we want to attract dancers, younger dancers, especially let's say 55 instead of 65, you can't dance at a senior center. They won't dance there. I am 58 years old. I call there because you dance there. I would never sign up to go participate in an event at the senior center because I'm giving in. So you got to stay out of those. Those same new beginners wouldn't think of anything of paying 10 to 20 bucks a night for lessons. And then to retain them, really, we got to give them what they came for. All right, so things that we need to change. All right, I referenced that that speech I gave in 2008. So here's some things I believe. Beginner lessons should take no more than 10 weeks. Beginner lessons should be offered several times a year. At 5 weeks, there should be dances available for these beginners to participate in. There should be clubs that dance regularly at the 10-week program. What we're doing is we're asking them, or we're giving them the opportunity to get what they came for. Dance early, dance often, enjoy. And if we had clubs that danced at a 10-week program, that would work out perfect. We need to offer easy to learn forms of other easy to learn forms like lines and mixers and such. We need to decorate for every dance. I don't think we should dance in the storage room. I think we should dance in a nice room that looks presentable. I believe in a stage and in showmanship. I believe folks would rather dance in a ballroom than a basement. Makes sense to me. I believe we can and should charge more for our dances. Jeans are appropriate in some cases. Callers should dress appropriately. I still believe that petticoats and cloth ties are a turn off to some non-dancers. And I believe there's times, because we're talking about multi-generations, I believe there's times when all generations can dance together, while it's still being okay for my generation to not always want to dance with my dad's, and my son's generation to not always want to dance with mine. I'm also totally okay with different genres of music. I think it's okay for my son not to want to dance to Barry Manilow. And it's okay that I don't want to dance to The Weeknd. If you don't know who The Weeknd is and you watch the Super Bowl, that's the guy that did the Super Bowl halftime show. And frankly, I believe if we work together and we modify our product to our customers' needs and market it appropriately, we can and will save square dancing. Some things I don't believe in. I don't believe we should encourage new dancers to move to the next program. Routinely, new dancers are requested while they're still in beginner class to take the next program. I don't think we should encourage them to do that. I never have thought we should encourage them to do that. That's not what they came for, perpetual lessons. They came to learn enough so they could dance. Now they'll find it if they want it, but I don't think we should be encouraging them to move on. We should instead be giving them opportunities to dance what they know. I don't believe we should ask new dancers to take office for at least 3 years. And obviously, I don't believe we should dance at senior centers. All right. Now, some of you are going, oh, this sounds a whole lot like SSD, the Social Square Dance Initiative. It's not. I'm telling you, almost every one of those things that I just said came from a speech that I gave in 2008 at Prairie Conclave, which is a leadership weekend that was held here in Nebraska. SSD wasn't even conjured up until about 5 or 6 years later. So there aren't new ideas, but I will tell you that SSD is an alternative that is built to be the very product that I spoke about in 2008, at least in terms of what the dancer's getting. I'll give you a brief synopsis and I'll move on. Okay, first of all, the late great Jerry Story, this was one of his favorite lines, it was "Let 'em dance," and this was kind of his brainchild. If you don't know it, SSD is 50 calls. It's 12 weeks of class. There are several new classes a year. There's an emphasis on standard application, so they don't have to know how to do a left swing through from a right-handed tidal wave. It's where dancers are excited about dancing, can invite their friends who will be dancing within a very short time. Dancers are excited about dancing, sorry, I lost my spot. Enjoying each other's company, having fun, no responsibilities, take a break from dancing. Imagine this, I can stop dancing for a few months if I need to. I can come back and I'll be able to pick it right up. That would be awesome. And where they're not pressured into climbing the staircase of programs. you should look into it, because here's why. The product that they wanted, when we said what did they expect, they wanted to take a few lessons, be able to dance, to be entertained, to be welcome, to have fun. SSD is built to deliver exactly that. So take a look at it. And now, so here we go. So, all right. So problem well stated, half solved. Leadership, who's in charge, who makes the decision, who has the vision. So the answer is, since we don't have a president of square dancing, the largest and most recognized dancer and caller leadership organizations are the ones that have to have that leadership. And those two organizations are the United Square Dancers of America and Caller Lab, you and me. All right, back to COVID. So let's talk about what it does for our marketing. Okay, so COVID does not change any of the marketing principles at all. It's just about the timing in which we execute the basic marketing principles. So here's some disadvantages. Availability of venues to hold classes are limited and possibly closed. It's impossible to social square dance, right? Social distance when you're square dancing. We get that. Many current dancers fall into the high risk category due to age and underlying issues. And it's possible that prospects, meaning people that we would want to invite to come take class, may have some health safety concerns. So those are disadvantages, but there's some advantages too that you should know about. And I know this from the marketing side, the radio, the research, some of those things that we have done. Consumers, prospects, whoever you want to call them, are anxious for life to get back to normal. I have a cousin who lives in the Los Angeles area who has been working from home, hasn't been going out. For whatever reason, he needed to take his dog somewhere. Maybe it's the vet, I don't know. Half-hour drive, assuming from a distance standpoint, it was a half hour. He called me afterwards and he said, I don't know what's up with California, but they're not staying home like they're being told, because my half-hour drive took an hour and a half. People are anxious to get life back to normal. And they have a much higher than normal desire right now for social interaction. I was going to talk about this in my keynote speech. The pendulum to cower down into our rooms and just work on laptops and be away from people had already started to move back to away from that, to the point of people having more desire to socially connect. And now that got squelched when COVID came out, but people's desire for that social interaction is going to be through the roof as soon as they can get it. It's like if you have a dog and you love your dog, but when you go to work every day, you put him in the cage. Well, when you get home and you let him out of the cage and he just goes crazy, that's what it's going to be like when the government and the state regulators open up places and say, okay, it's okay to live life like you used to. People are going to be super, super excited about the opportunity to have social interaction. And that's something we're very good at. So, and then prospects are going to be seeking out safe means of exercise, which, we have to talk about the safety. So really, COVID is about timing and the message delivery. The Y Square Dance part of promotion, telling people why they ought to participate, all of that should be happening now. Start telling your story. Make sure when you're telling your story that you somehow address safety. That, you can even say dancing is shut down right now until the coronavirus subsides. But when it does, we know that we have the best place possible for you to come and meet people, move, socially interact, and enjoy each other. It's called square dancing. It's a safe social environment. Those kinds of stories. So you can roll a little bit about safety into what that message is, but now is the time to be talking to people about it. And then speak to their needs. If anytime you want somebody to buy something, You got to talk about what their needs are and how your product covers that. This type of brand marketing can and should be going on all the time, all the time. And I can tell you that the businesses that continued to promote themselves through pandemics, through World War II, through World War I, through the Great Depression, through the stock market crashes over the last number of decades, and through COVID, those businesses came out and gained more market share than the businesses that quit, because it was tough. We need to be marketing ourselves consistently right now, but it's about why, Dance, not about come and join us. So the come and join us, the recruitment message of when and how, my recommendation is that you get ready for classes and set up a class that obviously can't start until state and local CDC guidelines allow for it. I think if you want to do the garage thing, under the underground thing, and have a couple of couples of friends over to your house, you can do that. It's up to them in terms of where they're adults, in terms of their belief in what the safety is. But in terms of you actually holding a class in a venue, you got to have obviously ability to do that based on CDC guidelines. So set it up. And then I'm going to recommend that you start that about 3 months after group gatherings are allowed. The reason I say that is because we have more in terms of age considerations. We have more in terms of just that we're not just dancing, we're dancing with each other, we're dancing with everyone on the floor, we're holding hands with everyone on the floor. That's still going to take a little bit more than for the consumer to break through than their comfort zone with going back to their favorite restaurant. So that's going to happen when we've had a little bit of time after the CDCs have opened up their guidelines. So about 3 months after. That gives us a window of time from now until whenever that happens to get out there and talk to people about why they ought to square dance. So the biggest change in the message at this point is we're still telling a story why they should. All we've added is where and when. And then start inviting prospects to your class as soon as the dates and locations are set. I'm going to roll through this quickly because I know I'm already running over. But this is that same marketing funnel. So when we get to the promotion part, we got to decide on the tactics that we're going to use to promote our classes, to promote our square dance. And there's way too many of them to use all of them. So I want you to keep in mind that the most important part is awareness. Every tactic below, and I'll show you these, explain in detail, are explained in detail in the Collar Lab Square Dance Marketing Manual. I picked out in that manual these things to recommend to you, primarily because they're ongoing things that you can do, and primarily because they cost virtually nothing to do. Would I suggest to you that you do a broadcast radio with a streaming audio program tied into video OTT television commercials, tied in with social media campaigns to drive people to your classes? Sure. Depending on where you're at in the country, 15, 20,000. If you're in Los Angeles and you're hitting a big enough group, $50,000 investment. So I don't put those on this screen. Okay. And it doesn't mean you can't carve those out. You can do some social media on your own, but here's things that are inexpensive or free. And I'm not going to read the list because you guys will have this available to you. But my point here is that all of these things and how you do them are all in the Collar Lab Square Dance Marketing Manual, which I know Bonnie said I wrote it. There were actually 5 or 6, 7 other people that helped. Honestly, I did write about 80% of it myself, but I tried to include some other people in their stuff. It's a great document. If you don't know where to get it, I'm going to show you. But it talks about all of these things. So Okay, I'm going to move on. All right. Then the other part is what I wanted to show you is that those things on the previous page, how they affect the marketing funnel. So one of the things that I suggested from a marketing funnel standpoint is make a big banner, 2 foot tall, 8 foot wide, that says something about your club, that we dance here, and put that out on the street side of your venue every time that you dance. All we're trying to do is get people to understand that they're square dancing and it's happening right here. So it's simple, doesn't cost much. That drives awareness, consideration, evaluation, making a purchase. All of those things are important. I don't know how many of you, and since we're on a video conference call here, and it's a one-way street right now, I don't know how many of you have set up your email signatures. You certainly email lots of your friends, but you probably email lots of friends who aren't square dancers. So just having something about the fact that you square dance as part of your signature in your email automatically tells people. We don't have time today for me to go through all of these things, but they're all in the marketing manual. And there's lots of other resources as well. So speaking of resources, so here's the manual. So the Square Dance Marketing Manual provides education about marketing fundamentals, the whole marketing funnel, the 4 Ps, all of that is in there. It's all in there. Recruitment or research about the state of our activity and an understanding of the general public's image and awareness of the activity. Define marketing strategies. If someone puts a marketing plan together, like the big expensive one that I just talked about, you got to start with who do we want to talk to, and why would they participate? And if we know who we want to talk to and we know why they want to participate, then we know what to say. And knowing what to say allows us to say something to set us apart from our competition. And as long as we develop an overall strategy and we stay with it, we'll be successful. So it tells you how to do that. Brand management tactics, large lists of, this is the how-to, the marketing tactics piece, like how do I do a social media campaign? How do I get public service announcements or set up? All of that kind of stuff is in there. Recommendations, fundraising ideas, and then case studies. There are 3 case studies in there that show clubs that went from 0 to large and tells you exactly what they did and how they did it. I've also got included in that document resources. So the Color Lab has a foundation. Most people call it the Color Lab Foundation. It is actually legally the foundation for the promotion and preservation of square dancing. It's a 501c3. And the Color Lab Board of Governors runs it. Lesson grants, education grants, and square dance marketing grants. Hardly anybody's asked for money for marketing from the Color Lab Foundation. Put a plan together, submit it. Then there's the Color Lab Marketing Committee, which I was chairman of. I'm not now, but I was for a long time. We created the Square Dance Marketing Manual. Individual advice and recommendations. If your club or your federation needs some help, get a hold of the chairman or vice chairman of the marketing committee. Face-to-face training. Color Lab has multiple marketing related education sessions from past Color Lab conventions, both audio and video. And I actually think the video, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to find them, but I know we have our own YouTube channel and many of these video presentations are right there accessible on YouTube. So this is about educating yourself on what to do. The Color Lab Knowledge Base website. That is set up. I'm sure many of you have been there. Lots of great information on there, including winning ways, which are success stories, repeatable success stories. The Arts has marketing collateral material, logo and slogan. Add-a-Buck fundraising program. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. It's one of many things that are out there for you to raise money. It has an education grant program, a recruitment plan, which is actually the recruitment plan that I wrote in 2005. And it was a marketing plan. That's out there. And then, of course, you guys, the USDA, lots of publications on educational material. So there's a lot of resources that are out there and available. And then last but not least, there's me. Even though I don't have the time to be the chairman of the marketing committee anymore, and I am stepping off the executive committee of Collar Lab, I will probably stay on the board of governors if the membership elects me. But the reason is I took on the role of a market president for iHeartMedia about 2.5 years ago. And it's a big job. And I didn't feel like I could do everything I needed to adequately to stay in those roles. So, but I'm still around, and I'd be more than happy to dig in. I know I've had a couple of you on the call that have sent me some ideas to look through and give my opinion. I'm always available to do that. Mike.Hogan@cox.net, or my cell phone is 402-680-9500. You're welcome to call me. Okay, so wrapping up. Problem well solved, or problem well stated is half solved. Leadership. We talked about that. If we take a good look at our business, really, USDA has a big role in making decisions about how we run our business moving forward. In addition, Collar Lab has the same thing. And believe me, there are lots of strong-willed people, strong opinions, lots of debate, lots of work being done on looking at the future of our square dance activity, more so right now than probably ever. So here's what we can do. We can embrace change and modify our product so beginners stay. We can develop a plan to market square dance into the public where you live. You can do that. You can raise funds because we got to pay for this stuff. We can aggressively pursue opportunities to dance in the public, creating awareness. We can create opportunities for non-dancers to sample our products through beginner parties and dances. I mean, people don't just show up. They want to try it before they buy it. We got to make learning to dance easy and readily available. So if we can do those things, one of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein, vision without action is hallucination. So I'm sorry that I don't have the magic pill that if you take this, everything will be better, or the vaccine. I'm sorry that I don't have the marketing plan that says do exactly this, A, B, C, and D, and you will have huge success. It varies from market to market to market. It varies based on the budgets that we have. But I can tell you this, if we don't take a real good look at what those people are getting when they get there, we're going to continue to recruit dancers. They show up and they leave, and we got to find more. So take a good look at all of that. Take a look at the marketing manual. Take a look at some of the other resources that are out there, and take charge. You're in charge of the future of our square dance activity, just as I am. So that's it. Thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you very much, Mike. I hope you can all hear me. We do have some questions that came through the chat. First, the question was, how did demographics play a part in advertising? That's probably a loaded question.
Yes. So how do demographics take a part in advertising? Was that the question? Yeah. Okay. So here's the demographics. In terms of advertising, there are different tactics that you can use, different formats that you can use to go after certain age demographics. For example, if you wanted to go after 50 plus or really 65 to 75-year-olds. Now, I'm not saying that's where you want to go, but if you want to go there, you can use print newspaper. They read the paper, they get the paper. As you get younger, less and less and less and less and less and less and less. On the other hand, if you wanted to reach a lot of really young people, they're really into social media, and the big blowing up social media thing right now, for especially for the younger groups, is TikTok. And TikTok is probably a kind of social media that most of you have never even heard of. But the point is that there's lots of different kinds of media that you can use to get a message to your demographic people, the demographic that you want to go after. You got to first figure out what's the demographic that I want to go after. So how does it play a role? That's a part of it. The other part of how it plays a role, if we think about square dancing and the product that we want to sell them, would be, all right, if I decided that I wanted to go after a 25 to 35-year-old, what is it about square dancing that they would find appealing, that they would have a need for? So the message that you would deliver to is going to vary a little bit depending on the demographic that you want to talk to. So
Okay.
there's my answer.
Thank you, Mike. They've asked if you would stop sharing your screen so that we could get a better picture of everybody.
You know, I was trying to figure out how to do that.
I think
I found it. There's a stop share button. I found it. You're
Cool.
welcome. Sorry, I was looking when you started asking.
All right. I've got a couple of more questions for you, and I know that some are still coming in. How do we get the public to perceive that square dancing is normal?
Normal. So yeah, so I think if I can try to interpret what that is. So regardless of whether we're normal or not normal, we are what we are. And so, and we have a different perception, and we think we have a real reality on what square dancing really is. Because the idea that not only do retired folks square dance, but people that are actively working square dance, that people that aren't just farmers, there's nothing wrong with farmers, but there's a perception that it's only done in the countryside and only rural communities, as opposed to engineers and accountants and all of those kinds of people. Getting the non-dancing public to understand who we are and what it is we have to offer goes back to that first part of awareness. Now, the problem for our activity in general is, I'm going to go back to the money thing. We don't have any money. There is no way that we can reach mass media or mass awareness around the country or around the world, because we don't have the money to do it. We don't have the money. I had someone that really thought it'd be a great idea to put a television ad in the Super Bowl. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, that's 20-30 million dollars for one commercial, 30 seconds of airtime. Yeah, we reached a lot of people, but did we have enough frequency with them? So the best that we can do, I believe, is start getting out in front of people as much as we possibly can in our own communities. In terms of us being normal, we are what we are. But if we want people to believe that we dance to music other than bluegrass, then when we get out and dance in front of people, don't play bluegrass. Play something else. I don't have, like I said, I don't have the pill that answers all of that. But if you want them to understand who we are and where we are and what we have to offer, we've got to get out in front of them. So whether that's in some kind of intrusive media like television or video OTT, whatever that is, I know what it is, but I'm not going to go into it. Or a YouTube display or a YouTube channel or whatever those things are, we've got to get out in front of them. And unfortunately, they take money and they take time and they take experts to put those kinds of things together. And and it's kind of the cart and the horse. I would love for you guys, I know you're gonna laugh because I'm being a little facetious here, But I would love for you guys to come to me and say, hey, Mike Hogan, we want to hire you to be the marketing director for square dancing, and we're going to pay you $150,000 a year to do that. And we're going to give you $300,000 of travel expense and office expense and support. And we're going to give you a $10 million a year budget to spend on marketing.
Yeah.
Would have a chance.
Yep.
There'd be a chance. I might take that gig because I love square dancing. But until we have money to do stuff, we can only do grassroots things. But we can't not do the grassroots things. And that's why I put that list in those previous pages, to talk about the things that we at least can afford to do. And then if somebody suddenly shows up, I'm going to go way off on this money thing. The one thing that many of you, and I'm not going to point anybody out, but many of you who are on this call have is money. You're retired. Now, I know you want to leave that huge nest egg for your kids and your grandkids. You've got a legacy. I get it. I get it. But if you're 75, 80 years old, I can't put you on a float and hope that 40-year-olds are going to come and dance at my class. I can't. You can't do it. You can't change age. I'm getting there. But you do have the ability to help fund things. You just have to figure out if you want to do that. So how do we make people think that we're normal? I don't know. I don't know if we are normal. We are who we are. We got to get in front of them so they know who we are.
All right. Thank you, Mike. A next question was, and I know that Jim Masco partially responded to this one on the chat.
Hi, Jim.
Has anything been done to get the medical profession involved to help promote the activity? And Jim did say that Michael Strebe and the Arts Foundation are working on a video now that relates to that. But do you have any other input regarding getting the medical community involved?
I'm not aware of any work that's being done to try and tie in with the medical community, but apparently Freddie does. Hi, Freddie.
Okay.
Is it okay if Freddie speak? You know what? I'll hang out. I am not aware of anything specifically for the medical industry. I'm not.
Okay. Let me get through the printed questions first, and then I'll open it up so that other people can chime in. The next question is, your comments sound good, but if you began pushing this message clear back in 2008, what is the source of the resistance to change, number one, and what can be done to overcome it?
Wow, that's a big question. So the source of objection to change is human nature, more than anything. No one wants to change. Callers as well as dancers are resistant to change. If I use the example of doing SSD, I know that there are many of you on this call today that are worried that your club is going to fold soon. And you're worried about that. And your club, by the way, is Dancing Plus. So what you want, you the dancer who's making the decisions about the square dance activity, what you want is people to come in and take lessons and join your Plus Club so your Plus Club doesn't fold. And I understand that. But that's not going to get it done, because the people that we're going to want to recruit into square dancing, well, they don't know what Plus is. But I guarantee you, they didn't intend to come take class for a full year before they could go out on the dance floor. So, you know, you're trying to satisfy the need that you had to keep your Plus Club from going away, or your mainstream club from going away. And we're not changing to get people who don't dance what they want when they join quicker. So the biggest resistance, like I said, I talked about it in 2008. I even in 2008, if you read the speech, I gave the Nebraska Dancers Association $500 of my own money, which today is easier to do than it was for me in 2008. But I gave them $500 of my own money so they could start a marketing fund and start working on this kind of stuff. And 3 years ago, I asked for my money back because they didn't do anything. They took the money and forgot that they were even given the money. And I said, if you're not going to use it, give it back. And I went back and I asked, and they said, you're right, we're not going to do anything with it. Here's your money back.
Oh, gee.
And I don't know, resistance to change. Nobody wants to change it. We all want what we have. Maybe we should have an election. I'm going way off the deep end. Maybe we should have an election and elect 10 people to be the board of governors of square dancing, and one of them to be the president of square dancing. And when they say you're going to charge this for people to come into your dance, that's what you're going to charge. I don't know. You better elect the right people with their mind in the right place. But we gotta work. We gotta tell people what's going on with our activity. We gotta talk about what kind of change we need so that we can get people who don't dance to dance. Do we need a lot of money? We do need a lot of money. Where can we get that money? Well, maybe there's grants out there. The closest group to being able to run this kind of thing, I guess, is the arts, because the arts is both square dancing, it's USDA, it's Color Lab, it's Round a Lab, it's a bunch of different organizations that belong to it. But the arts itself is a representative from about 8 different groups and 4 or 5 couples that run a board, and they don't have the size, the manpower, the expertise to get anything really done. The concept is great, and they do serve a purpose. But I think, we're all volunteers, and until we can all see the light and start working together and define some real things that we need to get accomplished, we're just going to continue to wander. I think callers are going to take over a lot of this. I think callers are going to start a lot of their own clubs. And you may like that, you may not like that, but I just think they are. And if that makes square dancing survive, so be it. So anyway, I don't know how we change how we get everybody to work together.
Right. Okay. And just a couple of comments before our next question. I've had several people ask on the feed. Yes, Mike's PowerPoint presentation and a copy of the speech he gave to the Prairie Conclave will be posted to the USDA website probably by midday Monday at the latest. Our webmaster is really good, but he usually spends like one time a day that he posts things. So those will be available to you. The recorded session will be available in about a month. So, you'll be able to go back and hear this, share this session with friends. The next question that came up is the need for social interaction post-pandemically is expected to be widespread demographically. What day, time of the week lesson offering changes should we be considering to be able to accommodate children to young adults to middle-aged participants to seniors, i.e. working people probably prefer Friday nights or weekends? Any feedback?
I'm thinking, hang on. You know why we dance on Friday and Saturday night? We dance on Friday and Saturday night because that's the most convenient time for us to dance. That's when we want to dance. We're not working. So there is a part in my mind that says we ought to dance on Tuesday and Wednesday night and leave Friday and Saturday night for lessons. It does vary a little bit from age group to age group. Is there a reason why we can't offer Saturday morning square dance lessons? Every kid, if you want to go after youth, every kid's soccer, every kid's hockey, every ballet, all of those are offered on the weekends during the day. But we don't offer square dance lessons on the weekends during the day. We should. You'd have to look at each age group. It just makes sense to me that most people are working a regular, 8 to 5 kind of job. So if you want those people to take class, you got to offer it in the evenings or you got to offer it on the weekends. Okay, but why do we only offer it on Tuesday nights? We ought to offer it on Monday nights and Tuesday nights and Thursday nights and Saturday at 8 o'clock or Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning and Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We ought to offer all of those times, but you do have to take a look at the age group that you're talking to and adjust it a little bit. That's the distribution part, by the way. When I was talking about the 4 P's, one of them is place, which is distribution. Where are we going to offer and when are we going to offer the opportunity for people to learn? If we're stuck on the same Thursday night that we've been on for the last 20 years, maybe we ought to just look at another time frame. I don't know how many callers are open to looking at that. How many of your instructors are open to looking at that? I do think that during the day on the weekends is a great time.
I think a lot of it too, Mike, it comes into what callers are available to do some of those odd times. And it's like, it would be nice to be able to get into a lot of after school programs for kids. Parents are working, they need a place to go. The problem is, can we get into the schools or into a facility, as an outsider, not a parent or guardian? But also, do we have the callers that are available to do those daytime sessions or, every day of the week in particular areas? And so I think, a lot of it is going to be communicating with the callers in your area. I know in our particular area, we've lost several callers. They've either passed on or they've moved out of state or they've just quit calling because of the long downturn. So we also have to look at ways, and I hope to partner with Caller Lab on some of this for one of our future sessions, is getting more young people and people in general interested in being callers and cuers and clogging instructors and line dance instructors so that we get them back into the dance mode. But that's moving down the line. I have to another question for you. Once it is safe to congregate again, we expect to attract a wide demographic range to our social recreation. Those persons will have a broad range of learning rates. Do we need to consider tiered instruction sessions, such as a standard and an accelerated?
These are great questions.
I have good people on this session.
I know they're great questions. I absolutely think we should be open to that. I have taught kids in my basement 0 through mainstream in 9 classes. I've had dancers come to my mainstream class that went through it twice and they're never going to get it. These are generalities. Generally, the older the beginner, the slower they learn. The younger, the faster, generally speaking. There's always a one-off. So if we were able to get 50 people that wanted to take class, I don't like separating them because I like the social piece, but I think we should be open to that idea. Clearly, we can't teach if the vast majority are between 60 and 75, they're not going to learn as fast as the teenagers. And if we had teenagers, I think the teenagers would like to have their own time when they can just go and cut, rip it up and do what they want to do. And I think there's a place for that. Wow, that's a great question. I think you should offer multiple opportunities. If you got a slow group and you want to take a longer class, do that. I just would hate to take the social connection away from them.
Okay. Do we have any other questions that people want to send through on the chat? And I have to say, part of the chat, Mike, has been absolutely great comments about your session today. They feel like your information has been very excellent. It really honed in on, where we're at and what we need to do moving forward. I know that you talked a little bit about the social square dance, and one of our objectives is to continue this webinar series and have the social square dance issue become a topic of one of these webinars in the future. And then also, like I say, I'm looking to collaborate with other dance organizations to help just spread the word on what we need to do and how we can keep square dancing going. Any other questions we have? If we're to that point, let's see, Mike, would it be practical for USDA Collar Lab to apply for grants from major philanthropic organizations to obtain major funding for marketing of square dancing? So having the major organizations go together as a united front. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that was one of the very initial motives in setting up the arts. Collar Lab, historically, Collar Lab set up a grant writing committee that had a lot of wishful volunteers, but very few, in fact, that I know of, no professional grant writers. There's a real trick in writing grants. But one of the things that came out of that was that if we had an organization that there were multiples, the USDA, Collar Lab, other organizations that could represent all of that, the modern folk dance type of category of dance, that would be enough power to capture the attention of some of the bigger granting, some of the bigger philanthropic organizations out there. And grant writing might be a big piece of what they can do. So we kind of have that, but they're not writing any grants.
Right.
And I don't know if they're not writing any grants because that initiative is sort of fallen aside, or they don't have the manpower. I think it's funny. I don't think it's funny. I think it's sad that the arts is the single largest representation of multiple square dance leadership organizations under one roof. And most people don't even know that it exists. Most people on this call probably do. But if the arts wants to take that ball and run with it, I think that'd be great. And if they don't want to because they don't want to, or they don't want to because they don't have the manpower or the expertise, then yes, I think it would make sense for the USDA and for Collar Lab to go together to work on obtaining grants.
Here's a comment. It's not a question for you, but a comment that somebody posted on the feed, and it said, a few more of us could leave a small donation to our square dance organizations in our wills. And that's a philanthropic kind of idea.
That is absolutely true.
Approach as much as we should, but as you said, there are several organizations. Collar Lab, USDA, Arts are all 501c3 organizations.
Right.
Donations can be made to that are tax deductible.
And by the way, if you're thinking about doing it from a will standpoint, and you're going to a 501c3, you can do a standard codicil that is an attachment to your will instead of having to rewrite your will. And if you're interested, at least if the Collar Lab Foundation is of interest to you, we already have on our website the paperwork that you needed to accomplish that. But I don't think anybody does it.
All right. Here's another question for you. As a media professional familiar with needs of the business sector, do you think that we might solicit sponsorships of what could be post-pandemic celebrations of a return to social interaction? Who might those sponsors be? And might recreation centers come on board sponsoring big celebratory dances?
You guys have great that's more of a great idea. Do you think it would work kind of thing, right? So what I'm hearing is what we call cause marketing. And cause marketing is an organization who would sponsor that kind of an event. Cause marketing can be pretty big. But you have to have a plan of what you want to have sponsored, and you have to have a salesperson that can get connected with the potential sponsor to sell to the sponsor why it makes sense for them to do that. I would tell you that there's probably some grants out there from some federal organizations that are going to be about social gatherings and re-energizing. I think those things are coming. I'm trying to, so the idea I think was to have some big social events sponsored by some national or larger local business. If I'm reading that right, or if I'm remembering the question correctly, it's entirely possible to do something like that. You got to, it's basically a sales platform at that point. You've got to put together what it is, what you think it'll do for the community, why a sponsor should sponsor it, and then go ask them to sponsor it. I think there's a lot of businesses out there that might do that, but it's like it's like me telling my salespeople that we're going to do a bridal show, and I want you to sell booths into the bridal show, but I'm not going to tell you how much the booth is or when the show is. Just go sell them.
Yeah.
You know, we got to put the plan together and then present the plan. I think it's got some wings to it anyway.
Yeah, we have another question, and I can partially answer this one. Would it be possible for a small club that can't afford to market on their own to go to partnership with a local corporation where the corporation pays the caller's salary and any marketing, even if it's only on a temporary basis till the club gets back on their feet? I don't know of any corporations that do that, but I know that our local dancers association here in the Sacramento, California area, um, they've pooled some of their marketing. They did have a marketing budget for the promotion of square dancing, and they did, and then they still do, advertising on behalf of the association and all the member clubs, instead of to support the local clubs that are independent. Also, they've done sponsoring at the California State Fair. The association has underwritten the dancing there, paid for the callers. A lot of the events that are like, the parades or the local events, the clubs can put in, if it's just something that's going to benefit their club or their area, they can put in to our association requesting that the association pay for the caller and for any other extenuating fees. The club has to do their own flyers and that kind of thing. But those kind of ideas have helped the individual clubs out. I also know that through IAGSDC, the International Gay Square Dance Association, they have similar kind of setups that they will help their member clubs sponsor marketing events and getting things up and moving. And they also sponsor grants for new dancers, new graduates to attend their first convention. So there's different ways to go about it. I think a lot of it is you need to check with your local association and see if there's any opportunities in that case. Mike, do you have any other to add to that?
No, you said it. There are a lot of resources out there. You just have to look for them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, before we close, I want personally, Mike, to thank you for taking my call and working with me to put this program together. Yes, everybody, please give Mike a huge round of applause. I'll open up the microphones in just a minute. And I do hope that you will reach out to Mike. Again, the session handouts and everything will be on the website within a few days. On behalf of the United Square Dancers of America, I want to thank you for participating in today's webinar. We had a sold out crowd, which just thrills me to death. We hope you've enjoyed this session and will plan to join us in our future webinars. We welcome your feedback and hope you tell your friends and fellow dancers about the future programs in our series. Our complete schedule can be found on our Facebook group, and we do have a Facebook group for USDA, and also on our website, which again is www.usda.org. usda.org. If you would like to be added to our email list so that you get direct notification of each of these webinars, please email us. Several of you put it on the chat feed, but give us your name, where you're from, and your email address. You can either put it on the chat feed, we'll pick it up, or you can email it to us at socialmedia@usda.org. The USDA Executive Committee members will also be presenting several workshops and educational programs during the 70th National Square Dance Convention in Jackson, Mississippi this summer, and we'll be presenting our Plus After Party on Friday night of the convention. This year marks USDA's 40th anniversary of being in existence, and so we hope you'll come and join us for that party and helping us celebrate 40 years of promoting square dancing. I'm hearing you sing another message. Warm regards to all. Come dance in Canada when you get a chance, and the borders are open. Thank you all. Please join us on Saturday, March 13th for the next program in our series. It's called Do You Hear What I Hear? Using newsletters and other forms of social media to get the word out. I think that kind of plays in really well with Mike's presentation today. Until then, we hope that you all stay safe, be kind, and hope to see you on the dance floor really soon. I'm going to go ahead and open up and unmute you, but please try not to shout over each other because we have some really good discussions once we open it all up. Again, thank you all. Mike, 1,000 times thank you to you.
Welcome.
Several people said it's one of the best presentations we've had. I tend to agree. I think you had just wonderful, wonderful material for us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Gonna turn you all loose. Thank you
nice.
all.
Here we go.
And if any of you have direct questions for Mike, he'll probably still take them for you. Like I say, just try to do them one at a time. Unmute yourself to ask your question and then remute yourself so that everybody can hear.
First of all, I would just like to have everybody give him a big round of applause so he can hear it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
So Mike, you said that we shouldn't be dancing at senior centers, as one of the clubs in the Denver area that does in fact dance at a senior center.
Yep.
Any recommendations as to how to get around that, or
well,
I mean,
so Tomo, here's the thing. I've actually danced at your facility, and it's really nice. Or called there, I guess. The challenge with dancing at the senior center is if you want to recruit anybody who doesn't see themselves as a senior. And that's really all there is to it. If they see themselves as a senior, they'll be happy to go dance at the senior center. Now, there are some one-offs. Interestingly, there's a slight difference in perception of a senior center and a community center, because there are a lot of people that can perceive a community center as a senior center, but it's not. They have a lot of programs for seniors. They also have a lot of programs for youths. They have a lot of, arts and crafts. They have all of those kinds of things. But I had a dancer who actually teaches some jazz ballet kind of stuff for older dancers. And she came to my beginner night, had a blast, and then told me the reason that her and her partner didn't come when we started our first class to try a few classes is because her experience, while she loved it, was that everybody at the dance was too old. She felt like she didn't fit in. And she was 58 years old at the time. So, and we were dancing in a church fellowship hall, but just the age of our dancers, she felt like she didn't fit in. So if you take that same mentality and you say, I want you to dance, I want you to come and take class. And really it's more about class than dance location, class location. I'm not going to go take the class at the senior center because I think I have to be a senior to do it. I might go to the community center. I might go to the church. I might go to the school, but a senior center by itself is a challenge. Where we dance is one of the pieces of our product that we offer. And some of you have heard this story, but it's worth sharing. I manage the iHeartMedia operations for Sioux City, Iowa. When I started calling Sioux City, Iowa and the surrounding communities all had clubs. There were about 10 or so clubs just in Sioux City itself. And then the money side, where we all want to not have to spend any more money than we have to, which is human nature, and the inability to recognize the marketing piece of it. The community of Sioux City, the clubs in the area, found a location to dance and they loved it. It wasn't a great hall. It was a cement floor. It was cement walls. It was a bit of a low ceiling, but they decorated the place. They tried to make it look nice and fun and festive. And all of the clubs moved their dances, including the round dance clubs, to that location. And the reason that they did it was because the rent was free, no charge. Hallelujah. We can handle not having as big a classes and as big a club because we don't need the money. And we don't have to jack the rate up for people to pay to come into the dance, which we don't want to do because we're the ones that have to pay it. And one of the answers is we got a hall for free. Why wouldn't you? And why wouldn't you take advantage of hall for free? We would all do that, right? Except the hall was the basement of the waste management building.
Not too inviting.
Yeah. Yeah, not the most exciting place.
And nobody wanted to, nobody who didn't square dance wanted to go there. Why would you want to go to the garbage company's basement to learn anything?
Yeah.
Today, there are no square dance clubs in Sioux City, Iowa. And very few in the whole northwestern part of the state of Iowa. Now, that's not why there aren't any, but I think that played a major role in the Sioux City area's inability to get people to come and take lessons just where they dance. And so if you want to get somebody that doesn't consider themselves to be a senior to come and take lessons, you can't teach at the senior center. I don't know how you get around it, Tomo. I don't know. Maybe you find another location for your classes.
We actually teach our lessons at one of the local church fellowship halls.
Okay.
So that's not as big an issue necessarily, and we don't necessarily promote our hall as a senior center. We sort of eliminate that particular word senior from when we
Perfect.
promote.
And I know most of you have never danced in the hall that they dance in, but I have, and it's a beautiful hall.
Yeah, it
so
is
just in turn,
great floor.
What's
Great
that?
floor.
Oh, really nice. Yeah. But in terms of the transition is when you get your beginners into class a little ways, make sure that you get them and you strategically plan it and you get those people from your class location to your dance floor a night or two while they're in class. So they can come, feel very welcome. You do a couple of sets for them so they can enjoy the activity. They get to meet some of the dancers that they might not know otherwise. Those dancers know that they're in class right now, so they're not going to go, well, you better be really good when you get out. They're going to be very welcoming of those people. And it gives them the opportunity, if for some reason the idea that it's a senior center is a turnoff to them, it gives them the opportunity to see the beautiful facility that it is and how it sounds and the atmosphere of a fun dance. And then the senior part on the name goes away. So just how I would address that issue.
Sounds good.
Mike, one of the things you talked about was, what we're charging for square dance and square dance lessons. And so a question did come up is, what is the average cost for classes? And I think that, and I know it varies from area to area and a lot of it about the mentality of your club. But since we do have a broad range of people still on board here, can we maybe have some people tell us what their club is charging per class night, and if you're doing it on I know, one of the things you mentioned was some groups charge for the whole series of lessons all in one fell swoop. So you have to put it out of pocket from the very beginning. Others charge on a monthly basis, others charge on a per night basis. But, part of that question is anybody charging more than $10 for a class night? So maybe we can get some people, hopefully one at a time, or to share what their classes are costing and give people an idea and what maybe we can consider raising them to. And it says Anchorage charges $9 per person per dance. Eric Hennerlaw posted $8 per night for 12 classes, $96 up front. Eric, do you only offer it up front, or do you give them the option?
No, we only offered up front because we want them to commit to the 12 classes. But we always give the first night free. They can decide after that.
Thank you. Anybody else want to?
I'll tell you what we're doing in Omaha right now when we have class, which, by the way, one of the things that's been challenging for me, having taken the market president job, my real job in Sioux City, it's eliminated me from being able to teach class. And I hate that because I love to teach. But that said, we teach 20 weeks and we ask, we're charging $100 a couple per 10 weeks. So $200 for 20 weeks, $10 a couple per night is the average. So $5 a person.
Okay. I'm getting that Missouri is very similar to what Eric posted. I've got another one, Sandy Silva. I cannot see on my little screen where you're from, but it says your class, you share $3 per dancer. Dance nights is $8. Did I say that correctly? And then Jim Wainwright, again, I'm not sure where you're located by my screen. $6 per dancer per night.
All right. So
I'm in Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Bonnie, we're in New Hampshire, and it is $3 per dancer for class and $8 for the dance night per person.
Okay.
all right. So I like,
In the
So what I-
greater Los Angeles area,
yeah, Freddie.
we had actually had a general meeting. Our association is the Associated Square Dancers, and we actually voted at a meeting to raise the price for everything to $10 a person starting last year. So we lost that. It didn't exactly happen. And the people have consulted with me and said, watch out for price fixing. So I'm going to change what I said and said, we had recommended to the clubs that they charge $10 for both dances and classes because the caller still needs to be paid for both of those.
Yeah, look, I don't, here's my take on this. We dance in less expensive halls because we don't want to pay more at the dance. The dancers, our current customers, those you guys on this call, you're the ones making the decisions and you don't want to pay any more than you have to. And I don't blame you because that's human nature. I don't want to pay any more than I have to either. But if you look at your business model, Lanny Weekland, who is not on the call, I don't believe, but Lanny and I started doing co-op lessons between his clubs and mine. And we offered multi-cycle. So we were doing 2 different classes a night. And we charged at the door and we kept what was left after the rent was paid. And that process allowed us to basically teach for several years and kept the activity in Omaha from doing what Sioux City did. In that same relation, Omaha and Des Moines are essentially the exact same size markets. They're very, very close in size. Omaha still has, I believe, or the Omaha area still has 7 square dance clubs and a couple of round dance clubs. Des Moines has 1 square dance club. That's it.
Interesting.
Same
We
side.
had somebody post in that they charge $40 for 20 days of lessons in Wichita and charge $6 per person for regular days. So, I have another question that's not price related. So do we have any other feedback on the price before I go on to the next question?
I just want to tell you that if you wanted to take ballroom dancing, you're going to pay $600 a couple for 10 lessons that are an hour in length.
Wow. And I do know, going
We
back,
shouldn't be that price, but
yeah,
we have room, is my point.
going back to some of the restarting stuff, I know that some of the groups had been able to restart line dance or round dance classes and clubs because, and the requirements I know with the round dance club I knew about was, all the couples had to be from the same household. So like I couldn't go in and dance with Mike. We're two different households, but two people from the same household could go in, they could practice the social distance, so they limited the number of people in the hall, and they were in a more rural area in a less impacted county in California. So they didn't have quite as heavy restrictions. That was before Christmas and we got our total lockdown. But so that's another place that if you do have round dancing as part of your club activity, that might be a place to start to get people coming back out. Is, hey, we can't square dance yet because there's too much, touching and hand holding, but we can do the round dancing because you're keeping in your small group. So that's something to think about. The question that came up is any area already doing the SSD program with several clubs in the area? And has it been successful and has it been sustained from year to year? And I do know that we had a couple of clubs in our area, being Northern California, one up in Jackson, which is a rural area up in the Sierra Nevada foothills, and then at least one club, and Eric, you might be able to correct me, in the Bay Area that were doing a community dance program, which is similar to the social dance. The biggest challenge they had, they grew their clubs, at least the Jackson club did, that's Kip Garvey. But the problem is that there was no other club doing it, so they didn't have a place to go to dance. Right. I think that's a key from everything I've been hearing on the social dance platform that Collar Lab is pushing and presenting, is that we've got to have multiple clubs in an area participate in the program so that those dancers do have somewhere else to go besides just their lessons. But again, Mike, you and Eric and any of the other callers online might be able to have more input on that.
Well, you're exactly right, Bonnie. There's if there's a club that does it in your area, I think it can still be successful if only one club does it, but it's only going to be successful in that they offer dancing often enough for the people that they have come for the SSD program. SSD program is not designed to be the platform at which people jump off immediately and go to mainstream or plus. It's designed to be a program where people can come in and dance quickly in 10 or 12 weeks worth of lessons, and not feel pressured to have to do a lot other than show up and dance. I know human nature is that people are going to want them to come and take the next program. And that's going to be really hard for us to not let that get into those dance floors. In addition, it's going to be a little bit of human nature for those dancers that do that find out there's more out there to not want to go and find more. But yeah, if we start, even if it's not SSD, if we start basic clubs or community dance programs or whatever it is, we have to have a lot more opportunities for dancers to dance it. If it's your home club and you're the only club that dances SSD, I don't know, maybe that becomes a big club at some point. But if it's your home club, you probably need to offer it every week, which is another challenge. If you can get enough callers, because I think callers are going to start these, whether dance clubs get started with them or not. But if you get enough callers or enough dance clubs that are doing the program, then there'll be some natural visiting between. In terms of areas that have seen some success with it, I know Southeast Iowa has had some success with it. I know there's been a few clubs in the Chicago area that have done okay, but they've kind of mixed it in with their plus club. There's one club that I call Club 50, which is like SSD, one tip and plus the next tip. I think that's kind of oil and water mixed together. It seems to be working for them. I have another club that all I did was Club 50 SSD stuff, and they had a great time. SSD is not about refilling your current club's dance floor, and I know that's what you really want. It's about refilling floors with square dancers, and they might or might not be part of your club. That's kind of what I know about it at this point. This is probably the closest I've come to a real public endorsement of the program from my standpoint. I don't know if it's going to be SSD, but I said it in 2008 before SSD was even a theory. We should be able to teach people who don't know how to dance enough stuff that in 5 to 10 weeks they can dance and enjoy the activity. And we're not doing that. We've gotten a long, long ways from that. Comments, concerns, questions, queries, quibbles, complaints, whatever it is.
Well, in kind of on another note, and just to kind of put something out into the thought process, our local association a few years ago really tried to present to the homeschool community, because that's an area that it is young people. They are looking for the physical education requirements and all of that. The objection we came to at the time is we did presentations at their state convention. The problem was that so many of them were, they liked Contra much better, because they wanted to be able to go in as a family, pay a small nominal fee, and then be able to dance. They get taught, with Contra, you get taught a lot of the movements that are going to be done that night. They can dance all night, and then they don't have to come back for 6 weeks or 2 months. And so maybe the social dance program or similar, whatever generation it takes, if clubs go into that homeschool environment, might be a place to approach. If there's homeschool people everywhere. So look into seeing if there's a homeschool association or a group, because they will often get together several families and plan activities or whatever. They might be a good target audience to get us our foot in the door to the younger people, where we might not get into the traditional school districts and all of that kind of stuff. And again, it's that shorter lesson time, learning quicker, being able to come back on a regular basis without having to come every week. A couple of more things on the, let's see. Lesson cost is an element that's particularly relevant to post-pandemic lesson offerings. Many people have either been laid off or lost their jobs. Their ability to pay for leisure activities will be limited or non-existent. Although we shouldn't underprice our dance instruction, it seems wise to make the cost reasonable in the economic climate. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are twofold. I do not ever want square dancing to be considered an expensive hobby, ever. I think we should be as best we can on the low end of what it costs for some of that entertainment. I do not think that we should be at the level that we are right now. Now, that said, it doesn't mean that we can't have an opportunity to do classes for free at the community center that the community center sponsors, and make that a venue where people who are looking for the opportunity to get involved to get involved. From a caller, the reason we need to charge something is because we can't pay for our halls and we can't pay for our callers, and we can't do that because we can't get enough people to take the class, right? So if all halls were free and all callers were free, then maybe all lessons should be free. But if we do lessons for free, we're going to establish a value. That whole cost value thing is a problem. If you had no expenses, you could do this for free. Callers are not ever going to have no expenses. And it's a business for us. It's not really a good business for us, but it's a business for us. But in their statement, where the expectation is there's going to be a lot of people that could use it that don't have the money to participate in it, set up a program so that all of your expenses are covered. But in general, and by the way, I think that would be a great thing to do. It actually, in marketing, it's satisfying a new need that they've identified, which is I'm connecting the need to get out and socially interact with the need for something that I can afford to do because I don't have any money. And so if there's a way that expenses can be covered for that, go for it. That would be a great way to get people started. But the whole cost value thing is a piece of the puzzle as well. If you are dancing at a senior center because you can get the hall for free because you don't have any money, you should probably be charging more. There's not an algorithm that tells you exactly where you need to be. Clearly, we need to have enough money to pay our callers, pay our queuers, pay for our halls, and have enough money left over to cover other club expenses, and maybe even create a marketing fund. Wow, what a concept that is. And we can't do that by giving it away for free either. So we have to set a value on it and charge the price appropriately. In this example, where there might be some financially strapped people that could really benefit from it, fine, set up a different program, don't charge them, or get a sponsor to pay for it. That's a great reason why a philanthropic type oriented company would pay the hall and the queuer or the caller, so that these underprivileged or unemployed or damaged by the COVID or whatever it is, their situation, providing them the opportunity to get the exercise. Go for that. That's a great idea. Just don't let it be what we do overall for our activity. Okay, shut it down.
I hate to cut this off. We have gone an hour over our scheduled time, but we could have this discussion all day. Again, Mike, thank you so much for your time and expertise. Really, really appreciate it. To all of the rest of you that have joined us and participated, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging with us to the bitter end here. Please join us next time. And, if you've got ideas for programs that you'd like us to think about putting on, reach out to me at socialmedia@usda.org. I am continuing to schedule out programs further through the rest of the year. We're booked through June, and then starting in July, we'll be adding more programs.
All right.
To the
Bonnie,
USDA Executive Committee, thanks for your support in all of this.
Bonnie, my thanks to you and the executive committee for inviting me, and thank you for taking this on and helping educate our dancers and callers. Appreciate it.
Can I make one quick, just an announcement? What we're doing in Southern California, the thing that we did with SSD is we've used it to get a seat at the table with the callers. And so the callers and the dancers of A²D have agreed together, and that's 30 clubs, to do the SSD program when we are permitted to open up. I have been asked to speak and have spoken successfully to the clubs and the associations in San Diego, the Central Valley of California. I have spoken at the International Association of Gay Square Dance Clubs, and I have also been asked to speak recently, which I just did, at the Northern Texas Callers Association. So the thing is that, and Mike, you said this at the beginning, and as you know, I'm your favorite groupie. I just will go anywhere you go, and I thank you so much. But the point you made is that we need to do this together as dancers and callers. And it's exactly how you started your speech. And so what we have done is bring the callers with us, and there is a table together between the callers and the dancers. So I highly recommend that everybody look into that. We are hoping that when we come back in California, and I represent Southern California, A Square D, but as I said, we're talking to clubs in San Diego and associations in San Diego. So we're trying to expand this as far as we can. We did try Club 50 years ago and it failed because only 3 clubs out of 30 did it. And don't ask the problems with that. You don't want to hear it. But we are very excited about this, and we are working on our marketing program, and we expect to launch the marketing program in the next couple of months, and we'll market while we're waiting to open up. So I just wanted you to know the approach we took is to do it together as 2 groups together, callers and dancers. Thank you.
Freddie, I love that. But what I want everybody to understand is that whether you do SSD or something else like it, the SSD program is primarily a retention thing, not a recruitment thing.
Right.
It's about making sure that once they get there, that they get what they came there for quickly. It's telling somebody who doesn't square dance that we do the SSD program, they're going to go, I don't know what that is. What does that mean? So it's more about retention. The only thing that it maybe would help with is if someone that you're trying to get to come take class asks, well, how long are class? If you say 50 weeks, they say, bye-bye. If you say, well, generally we do the whole program in about 12 classes, and about halfway through we start having dances so you can dance regularly. Okay, I might try that. So just keep that in mind. That's the only place where I think it would make a difference in the recruitment side. It'll make a big difference in the retention side.
Yeah.
Well, that's our plan, and we have asked the clubs to commit for 2 or 3 years to SSD only, and
Okay.
we've asked the callers that as well. And so that is the plan. And yes, oh, believe me, you're going to see our marketing plan before this is over, before we hire anybody.
But
So again, thank you, Mike. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, Freddie.
One thing I would like to stress to all of you, and even just as I've started sitting in, I know IAGSDC has had, they have a monthly marketing restarting square dancing sessions the first Monday of every month. There are other different groups around that you can, join in on to hear discussions. The one thing that, I kind of heard on the SSD program or anything that's, the baseline program basics only is, well, I'm an advanced dancer and I don't want to dance just the 50 basics, or you're not going to, I'm a plus dancer and you're not going to get me to do this. What I want to stress to you is whether you personally agree with it or not, or it's your cup of tea, look at it with an open mind. And, I think, one of the things that Freddie said is we all need to be in this together. We all need to be hearing and sharing the same message. What the clubs decide to do is really up to the individual clubs. I don't think you can force any club or any caller to do something that they don't want to do. But what we have to do as dance leaders is be open to hearing the discussion, seeing what the program is about. All of us give the same message about what the program is and let clubs and groups make their own decisions. But I think we do need to be a united front if we want to preserve square dancing. And I'm off my soapbox.
I say amen to that, Bonnie. Good job. We're trying to do that in New England too. So we're trying to get to that point. I hear you.
And I think the more that we can share and interact, the better informed we can all be, the better dance leaders we can be.
Bonnie, this is Tony Rock. And as some of you may see by our title, we are the presidents of, Diana and I are the presidents of USDA. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike, for taking the time to offer this webinar with us. And number two, I'd like to say to everyone here, thank you for attending, but not only thank you for attending, but I hope that you'll go back to your areas and your clubs and federations and associations, whatever, and advertise for us and tell your friends and your other dancers that the what you got out of this workshop, what you got out of this webinar, and maybe that will spark an effort of change and marketing, number one. And number two, tell them about our webinars so that, you know, put it in your publications, put it on your Facebook pages, and help us to spread the word and spread the education. So we would appreciate you telling your friends and about it so that we can continue this webinar series ongoing much beyond June. Bonnie has done an excellent job at putting this together, and we personally want to thank her, as well as all of you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. I am gonna, you know, it's like almost 1:30 California time. Again, this has just been an amazing day, and I want to thank you all. I am going to go ahead and end the session for everyone and encourage you to go out to the website in a couple of days, get Mike's handouts, and we'll have the recording up in about a month. So,
bye all. Thank you.
bye-bye. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
No, you can't. You already sent it.